and welcome to the broadcast. Intranets drive employee engagement. We are talking about employee engagement and how intranets and the greater digital workplace can help improve engagement. And of course, when we talk about the digital workplace, we're talking about the sum total of all the digital tools that a employee, a worker uses on a day-to-day basis, of which the intranet is often the hub of that digital workplace or the gateway to it. If you're listening to the podcast version of today's webinar, you can view the full video replay and slides that accompany today's broadcast via our YouTube channel or at intranetblog.com. If you registered for the broadcast webinar, then you will receive an email tomorrow as a follow-up, whether you made it or not. This is brought to you by Prescient Digital Media, the intranet experts. I'm your host, Toby Ward, founder of Prescient Digital Media, the intranet experts, for 22 years. I'm also the chief blogger at the very first blog dedicated to intranets and the digital workplace, intranetblog.com. The full article on this very subject matter is already live, as are the slides. If you go to intranetblog.com, it's right there. It's the lead feature on the blog already. The full video replay and the podcast version, which will later appear on Podbean and Spotify, will appear later. We've been working on intranets and digital workplace tools for more than 22 years now. Everything from concept to live assessment, planning, design, the implementation, sometimes even the content and operations, and have the good fortune of working with nearly 300 clients now, some big names and brand names, and some of you are here today. We thank you for your business. And if you need a shout out or you need a little hand with your intranet, by all means, give us a shout. My contact information is at the end. So as we go through this, think about what is the employee engagement rate at your organization? Is it even measured? How often do they use the intranet? That is to say, your employees. How about other digital workplace tools, and how often is the intranet used in relation to it? Is the intranet merely a passive document library and or a newsletter? Or are you engaging, are you interacting with employees? Is there a two-way conversation? We'll talk about that a little bit more as we move through the webinar. And then at the very end, we'll open up to questions. Finally, have you asked employees what they want on the intranet? Have you engaged them to be part of the intranet and the digital workplace other than just a passive user? So we're going to talk about the definition of employee engagement and examine the intranet's role in improving engagement, some trends, tips, driving use and adoption, suggestions to increase the stickiness of the intranet, and examples and case studies throughout the webinar. So let's first define what employee engagement is and then how specifically the intranet can affect or improve it. Firstly, an engaged employee is one who is fully absorbed and enthusiastic about their work. So they're very active, they're keeners. They usually make up somewhere between 1 to 10% of the workforce, depending on your organization and the culture. They take positive action to further their organization's reputation. Engaged employees contribute discretionary effort for the good of their organization. So that's added work almost. They're the ones that typically are working at night and on weekends, trying to get things done, trying to make things better. And engaged employees find meaning in their work. They actually see value in it and they enjoy it. They may not be as enthusiastic or excited as Buddy the Elf, but they're pretty happy to be doing what they're doing, and they are engaged and they're taking positive action. Why does it matter? Well, it's the emotional and functional commitment an employee has to the organization. And a study by Dale Carnegie found that $11 billion is lost annually due to employee turnover just in the US alone. Companies with engaged employees outperform those by up to 202%. So more than double. But 71% of all employees are not fully engaged. It's actually probably a lot higher than that since COVID. 3 drivers for employee engagement: relationship with the direct manager, belief in senior leadership and the senior leadership role that they have with employees, and pride in working for the company. 80% of employees dissatisfied with their direct manager were disengaged. 70% of employees who lack confidence in the abilities of senior leadership are not fully engaged. So really the buck stops upstairs now, doesn't it? What are the benefits? Well, according to Harvard Business, for every 1% increase in employee engagement, the return on investment for a social intranet increases 1,000%. That's pretty incredible. So a small investment and some effort put into the intranet and making it more social, more engaging can contribute a few percent in employee engagement and potentially thousands of percent in ROI in that intranet investment. So employee motivation can positively impact the bottom line in ROI. Higher employee engagement scores can help market valuations of the organization if you're a for-profit company. Increased employee engagement can equal a 12% increase in customer satisfaction. Increasing employee engagement investments by 10% can increase profits by $2,400 per employee per year. And highly engaged employees are 38% more likely to have above average productivity. This according to a Madison Workforce Engagement Study. Employees can impact on operating income. Those that are engaged and become ambassadors for the organization increase that operating income by up to nearly 20%. Those that are disengaged can have a negative impact on that income, down 33%. I've seen that happen actually. If there's a good culture, it pads the bottom line. If it's a bad one and there's disaffected employees and a lot of grumbling, it can really drain those profits away. Employees can better meet customer needs, recommend company products, actively advocate for the organization. And employees who say they are often happy at work, well, of course they are, they're going to take less sick days as well. So that means there's a lot more productivity and a lot more to the bottom line if they are engaged. Less likely to call in sick or take a day off. Of course, a truly disengaged employee might look a little like those guys that you remember from Office Space and the infamous printer, fax photocopy machine that they took their frustrations out on. Not the least of which was the one who ended up burning down the whole place at the end. So yes, disengaged employees can be of great detriment to the organization. So some tips on improving employee engagement, and now we'll get into the specifics of how the intranet and the digital workplace can help. Senior leadership has to set the tone and articulate a clear vision. Employees have to be encouraged to communicate openly, so active communications. Direct managers have a big role to play and foster healthy relationships and communications. Senior leadership doesn't just have to articulate a vision, they should be demonstrating it as well. Walking the walk and talking the talk. We'll show a few examples of that. And managers should show employees that they're valued. So rewards and recognition has a role to play as well. Some of you are familiar from the last webinar, the example that I gave of the CEO who has his own blog inside the organization. This is on the intranet. Of course, all of these examples are inward facing on the intranet within the digital workplace, who regularly blogs about what's keeping him up at night, what's of interest to him, what's of importance to the organization. He's walking the walk and talking the talk, and employees can comment on that, add their comments and or likes or shares to that employee intranet blog by the CEO. But we're also needing to encourage employees to be active communicators as well, to have that active voice. It might be in the form of liking and commenting a simple news story, or a document or a policy, or it could be a community group or something within the organization. But one of the simplest tools is to enable comments on a news story, on a general page on the intranet. You can moderate them, you can delete them, or you can turn them off if you want. But really, when your name and picture is attached to any comment that you make, you'd be surprised how responsible people are. This just came up with a client yesterday. People are afraid that people will act irresponsibly or talk and say bad things if we enable commenting on a news story. Well, can't they do that on email already, or on the phone, or on a discussion board, or within Teams or anywhere else? Here, at least, you have your photo and your name attached to it. Seems to me it's a lot more accountable than some other tools. Quick polls on the homepage. I have a quick poll for you guys at the end of this webinar. What should we be doing? What should the subject matter be of the next webinar? Your quick poll could be on the homepage, or it could be embedded within content. That's what I like. A quick poll related to the content embedded in that news story or document or policy. Such as, it could be something very simple and social, like, will you travel via airplane this summer? Or how do you like the new intranet? How about a photo contest that encourages staff to submit their own photo to the intranet homepage? We're working with Canon. Of course, they're a photo company, an image company. They're constantly doing this. In fact, they have a web part on the homepage that encourages anyone to submit a photo of theirs, of anything at any time. Just a little way to engage employees. How about incorporating a Yammer web part or widget into the homepage, as Pitney Bowes has done here? It can be related to all conversations, or it can be a channel dedicated strictly to work, or a subject related to work, or anything with the hashtag of the company name right there on the homepage. Managers need to foster healthy relationships. It doesn't just come from the very top and the very bottom, but in between as well, those managers and supervisors of employees as well, whether they're leading the discussion or sharing information about the team, or praising the team or an individual through something like Yammer, as exemplified here at Pfizer, or even just sharing something about what they did on the weekend or on their recent trip to the south of France. And you can use hashtags to create common themes and subject matter for colleagues to follow and encourage them to contribute as well. And encourage your colleagues to self-promote. What are you up to? What are you doing? People do like to see that. If they don't want to see it, they're not going to bother and go to Yammer or go to that web part. That's fine. They have the choice not to. But some people really want to, particularly engaged employees. And that might be up to 10% of your workforce, or in a super engaged organization, and I've seen it where 20 to 30% of the organization is engaged, then even more. it becomes a very social organization where you're not only collaborating on work and sharing and engaged on work stuff, but socially as well through the intranet. How about groups by subject matter or by theme? Pfizer's got groups for everything that you can think of. Fresh faces, new employees, those that are exercising, Asian Alliance, LGBTQ, people with disabilities, the Latino group, and on and on. Or by shared interests outside of work. Photographers of Pfizer, the dogs of Pfizer, dogs of those that work at Pfizer. Or volunteerism with a particular group or organization. The newsletter can be a really good tool to drive some of this engagement too. There, you can highlight key initiatives within the company, but also key stories that you may have missed, as we see here with Guardian Life. In case you missed it, and a link back to that story on the intranet, or an event coming up that you might list in something like key dates. I know it's an old world tool, but email is still king within an organization. All those prognostications back in the early mid 2000s, all these social networking CEOs who said that email is dead or the intranet is dead. I called them out on it 15, 12 years ago, and we continue to be right. Email is king in most organizations. So you should have an e-newsletter that goes out maybe once a week that highlights stuff people might have missed and further engage them, encourage them to go there. A feedback form on the intranet, asking them or encouraging them for feedback. Like when you launch a new intranet or you're thinking about launching a new intranet. How are you using it? What do you like? What don't you like? How can we improve it? You let us know. Not just prior to a new intranet, but after you've launched it and continuously thereafter. Most of the intranets that we work on, we always encourage a feedback link, if not in the footer and in the header, or regularly within particular content or news stories. Employee recognition is also really important. Recognize people's efforts and when they do great and good things. Best Western has something called an appreciation e-gram. So when someone has done something great and you want to sort of thank them or recognize them, you can go onto the intranet and send an e-gram to that individual or to the greater team or their boss, organized by theme or subject matter, and send it off to them or to other people as well to recognize them publicly. Badges or badgification are also popular. Add a badge to their profile. Everyone's got a profile on their connected to their internet. If it's in Microsoft, it's up under the icon that shows either your initials or your profile photo in the upper right-hand corner. How about a system that allows people to add a badge to that page, your profile page, as a thank you or recognition for something you did well? There are actually platforms, this is Nectar, that are dedicated to recognition. And point systems and badges and even gift cards that you can earn through points that can be redeemed by people who are doing a great job. It's an interesting concept. In fact, there's a whole industry around this recognition and recognition programs for employees. You don't have to be this involved or this dedicated to recognizing employees, but this does take it to the nth degree. You can start with an employee of the week or an employee of the month program as well. Employee ambassador programs. Now, ambassadors truly are engaged employees. They actively share news and good stories about the organization. They may use social media to support that. They certainly use word of mouth. Where it works well and employee ambassador programs work well, they are trained on how and why to share information outwardly to the external world, their friends and colleagues, etc. And they're recognized and rewarded for doing so. Of course, the best ambassadors are volunteers. They are truly engaged and they're quote unquote passionate and enthusiastic. Sprint has a program called the Sprint Social Media Ninjas. Click here to become a ninja now and learn how to become a ninja. And they're rewarded for doing so. Of course, policies and guidelines and lots of training and communication, it's all about change management, is of course necessary for these programs. Just like anything, just as your intranet or your standard digital workplace tool requires change management, marketing, training, communications, promotion, right? Ninjas are encouraged to share stuff externally. Suggested stories and suggested tweets. Here you go. Here's some of the stuff internally that you can share externally on your social media channel through Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Pepsi does the same thing. Not only does it encourage people to submit a story, but it encourages them to share internal stories externally as well. Some stuff isn't encouraged, of course, confidential stuff, but that stuff, those articles, those features, that content, which the company does encourage sharing externally, they will put a little web part or widget within that page. Share this article, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, so that they can share it externally. And there's a whole university online training program and newsletter dedicated to social media use and training and representing the organization as an ambassador externally to the external world. ConAgra Foods, their intranet homepage, they not only integrate Yammer posts right underneath the lead feature there in the bottom left-hand corner, but they also have a web part that displays the most recent posts from Facebook and their Twitter feed as well. That's probably overkill for most organizations, but if you're looking to start somewhere, this may be a good place to start. Talking about here on Yammer, the CEO is talking about Q3 earnings and a video on looking forward to Q4 and what we all need to do and what we're focused on. Key lessons before we open up to questions here. And if you have a question, feel free to input it there on the right-hand side within the panel. Executive leadership sets the tone. They set the vision, and the more they walk the walk and talk the talk, the more they're going to see employees follow the way. It's the trickle-down effect. If they see the CEO blogging and tweeting, sharing information on Yammer, being active with these tools, others will do the same. Particularly their senior managers right underneath them, those senior executives on the leadership team, and those managers that report to those, and so on and so forth. It's all about active communications. So communicating through the intranet, through newsletters, through Yammer, through social media tools internally and externally, and encouraging two-way conversations through commenting and sharing and liking and even sharing externally. Rewards and recognition. Recognize when someone has done a great job. Share that information widely if they can, if you can. Even a little reward, a little badge or a gift card goes a long way, particularly if you advertise it in a news story or within Yammer or within a dashboard or an employee profile. At the heart of all these digital tools and the gateway to these digital tools, the intranet becomes a very effective piece and becomes the center of the digital workplace when done properly. If that homepage is as effective as it could and should be, it's well planned, well governed, well constructed, with effective information architecture and navigation, and the right tools there to encourage these active communications and two-way conversations. Executive leadership, active communications, two-way conversations, rewards and recognitions. And then, of course, when you're doing all that, you need to evaluate what's working, what's not working, and come up with the plans to continually improve. So let me ask you and engage you guys. What should the next webinar topic be? You tell us. How about SharePoint for communicators? Or perhaps intranet governance? How about content management? How about more on intranet design and intranet design principles? Or lastly, the master ingredients for a great intranet. What are the intranet master ingredients we need to be concentrating on in our organization? Just a reminder for future webinars or podcasts, be sure to subscribe to the Intranet Insight newsletter. You can do so at prescientdigital.com. You can go to the newsletters article section, or just scroll to the bottom of the page and input your email there within the footer, and you'll be subscribed. It comes out monthly with lots of good articles, case studies, video replays, even links to in-depth presentations, and in fact, the entire conference, the last Digital Workplace and Intranet Global Forum. The next one will be in fact, in October 2023, Digital Workplace and Intranet Global Forum. The full video replay of last year's conference, you can go there now for it. The new one will be announced very shortly, in fact, before our next webinar. Okay, let's close this poll and see what you had to say. What do people want to see for the next webinar? 44% say intranet design principles. Okay, you got it. That's what we'll do in our next webinar. We do not have a May webinar this year. I've got too much on my plate and too much travel, but we will be doing one in June. If you have further questions about today's webinar, or you need a hand, give us a shout. You can email me there or visit us at prescientdigital.com. Of course, the full article on today's subject, Intranet's Drive Employee Engagement, and links to the slides you can find right on the homepage at intranetblog.com. So, thank you for tuning in today. We appreciate your interest and attendance. Until next broadcast, have a great time out there and happy intraneting.